A very good afternoon, friends, and a warm welcome to this dialogue session with our citizens. My name is Veronica, and I'm head of the Admissions and Financial Aid at SIT. So to each of you who has tuned in today, we are very pleased that you're able to join us. Let me first congratulate those who have received an offer from SIT in this admissions exercise. You have done well in your application and have aced your interviews. So thumbs up for a good job and all the efforts you have put in. Well, with the acceptance deadline just 2 days away, I trust you are ready to take the next step. And for those who are still deciding, we hope today's dialogue session with 5 of our citizens who have undertaken the same path of university application some time ago will be beneficial to you. So thank you for all the questions that you have sent in to us, and you can continue to send them in, and they are all very relevant. So we will be hearing more from your seniors here very shortly. But before that, let me get them to briefly introduce themselves. Shall we start with Ryan?
Thank you, Veronica. Hi, everyone. My name is Ryan. I'm currently a final year undergraduate in civil engineering. And right now I'm preparing for my next phase of corporate life, pursuing my career in corporate sector. Over to you.
Hi, I'm Kriti. I graduated from pharmaceutical engineering in 2020. Currently, I'm working at NUS as a research associate. Thank you.
Thank you, Kriti. Welcome.
All right. Hi, guys. My name is Felix. I graduated from software engineering last year, and currently I'm working at a local startup called Emerge Group as a tech lead.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dina, and I'm from hospitality business. I'm currently finishing my final trimester and will be graduating end of this year.
Yay.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. My name is Lala. I'm a year 3 student pursuing a degree in radiation therapy.
Hey, welcome, guys and girls. It is, we're very thankful that you can set aside time from your work and from your studies to join us. And really to be able to share, with our incoming students about your experiences and your advice as well. So, right, we have about half an hour or slightly more today to go through some of the questions and the common topics that our new students are interested in. So without further ado, let us jump right in and let's look at the different topics that they are interested in. Okay, let's see. Well, as you are aware, SIT is a university of applied learning. And so I guess many of the questions that come in concern, the teaching and learning approach at SIT. What does applied learning look like? And, how do you, how does it differ perhaps from other places that their peers may be going to? So how do classes and learning look like in SIT? Is there group work? Is it self-directed? How does applied learning really look like in a more tangible sense? So who would like to get the ball rolling?
I can share.
Sure, Tina, go ahead.
So in hospitality, the industry itself, we are constantly evolving. We are ever changing to meet the growing demand from consumers and at the same time also adapt to the various technologies that are evolving, especially after COVID. So it is really important for us as current students who are studying to be in these industries to actually be ready. And how our professors and lecturers actually prepare us is through the usage of applying relevant learning points from the industry into our curriculum. So weaving them into the curriculum through group projects, through individual projects and our various coursework, not just limited to reports, and also having applied classes where we actually get to learn and do hands-on activities. So my lecturers actually stress a lot about the fact that you really need to be able to adapt to these changes in the industry, even when we are studying to be in them. And by having a very well-rounded, holistic curriculum filled with really applicable content, we are even more ready to take on our time and our future careers within the industry, starting firstly with our internship.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Anyone would like to add to that?
All right, so perhaps I can add a little more to that. So as I've mentioned earlier, I'm a software engineering student. So one very interesting thing is, 5-6 years ago, I was also sitting over there. And then the program director started talking about a concept of applied learning, where they maintain very tight cadence with the industry professionals, who also updated them on what are the latest technological trends. And they also assured us that, the syllabus will be tuned to the industry needs. And, once I became a student, they didn't disappoint at all, right? Because my subsequent juniors, they learn different things from me, and they are always being kept abreast with the current technologies, and they're always very relevant. So how was that like for me, right? My curriculum is filled with many projects, different types of labs, and a lot of different project works where we need to, interact with different types of technologies. So in fact, for software engineering in particular, in the first year, we learned close to 9 technical programming languages, which allows us to, code different types of applications. So another thing I want to highlight is the efficacy of having self-directed learning. In fact, most of the projects, the professors will encourage us to apply different types of technologies. For example, some of my group mates, they will say, hey, why not we apply machine learning or image recognition AI on top of our project to score different marks? So different students with different interests will try to explore different aspects of software engineering. And then it's really awesome because you get to build your knowledge in a very wide manner, right? And that's extremely applicable for the industry.
Thank you, Felix. I guess the other related question is, how do I know that applied learning is for me, right? It's not, not everybody learns the same way. So some people do thrive in a context of applied learning, and perhaps that is how we differ from other universities, which are some of the questions coming in. How is SIT different from other universities? So maybe I would like to invite Ryan to share, like, how did you know, from that you're suited for this sort of context, this sort of a track?
To start off, I think we need to reiterate that SIT is the premier university of applied learning. We're the first and only autonomous university in Singapore that has this structure. Okay, so personally for me, why I chose SIT over applied learning, for the applied learning actually, is because of my childhood days. My interest deals with Lego and nano blocks, and that's when the key concept of building items or buildings from blocks itself channeled my interest into the way of how I study things. So I like to go things from the basic foundation, making sure that my fundamentals are secure and stable, and that's when I built on my interest, going further and going higher. And henceforth, I chose SIT for more of an applied learning kind of style of management. So in a sense that I can boost my own creativity and my fundamentals from scratch. Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, related to the teaching and learning, as we think about it, one feature about SIT's teaching and learning structure is that we follow a trimester system. So in one academic year, there are 3 terms, as opposed to one that has just 2 semesters. So I guess the tips that our students are looking for would be, what are some strategies to adapt to maybe the pace of learning, the sort of assessments, assignments, and how do they balance everything? So Kriti, could we hear from you how you manage? I know you're really active in all sorts of things, but you've done so well. So could you please share?
Okay, thank you. So the trimester basis is, of course, new to us. I think we've always expected June holidays and December holidays growing up. So of course, it is new to have only few weeks in between semesters, but it is manageable because there are limited modules that you will take in each semester to make sure that you are able to cope. One thing about SIT that I experience is that our class size are rather small. So when I have a more personal interaction with your professors, you can actually just feedback to them and be really candid about it and say that, there's just too much homework for this particular module. Is there some way we can work around it because other modules are expecting so and so? And they're really receptive to feedback. It's helped our class cope and, of course, eventually graduate decently. So I think one good thing is that there's no expectation that, okay, this is the curriculum, means you just have to die go through it. There's always flexibility that doesn't compromise on our learning outcomes, which I thought was very nice. I've also been involved in CCAs. I was in football, futsal. I've organized a few events for SIT, like inter-faculty games. I also volunteer on the weekends for the less fortunate. But of course, it all comes down to how you're able to manage your time. Of course, in different semesters where you have lesser modules, You're able to take up more CCAs. I also had one trimester break at the end of my first year. So of course, it really depends on how your curriculum is. But I think one thing that I found really comforting is that because everybody will go through it together, you have your classmates to rely on. Nobody's expecting you to go through this on your own. And I think that kind of pushes you through. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It sounds like, prioritizing, managing, but it's also pushing you through. I guess that would also, talk about in terms of the teaching and learning. One of the key teaching and learning thing about SIT is that we want an authentic environment and an authentic context. So we are not really putting you, in just something that you it's very theoretical, very hypothetical. But really we are talking about preparing our graduates to be able to transit very smoothly into the workforce. And I guess Felix, being in the industry for a while, transiting from perhaps the trimestral system, the way of hands-on teaching, how has that helped you? How has SIT's training and approach, prepared you for the real world of work?
Right. So one of the biggest impact to me from SIT was actually the IWSP program, which is a year-long internship, right? So personally, I've went to quite a number of internships. So during my time at SIT, before I was a final year student, I went for 2 more with a 3 months long internship. But what I like about IWSP is because it is 1 year long, you get to learn a lot of things, right? So thankfully, okay, for context, I was a software engineering intern at NCS. So what my supervisor did was that, okay, Felix, so you have 12 months long internship. So here is my training program for you, right? So the first phase, as he'll call it, will be the maintenance phase, right? So where he'll teach me how to manage different infrastructure, set up any servers, liaise with different types of department to see what are their needs. Then as we progress along, they put me into the ops team where I'll start to, fix bugs onto the system. So as I was doing all this incremental training, I get to learn a bit more about the system. So when I was around 6 months in, my boss gave me an assignment, which is to, build a full stack application comprising of front-end and back-end systems for the MOE business users. So that was a very challenging task. And I was exceptionally grateful for the long period of time because the first 6 months of training gives me enough depth and technical expertise to carry out my task, right? So the subsequent 6 months was me, trying to fulfill the business requirement. And I'm happy to say that at the end of the 6 months, I managed to deliver something, right? And my supervisors were quite pleased with it. Yeah. And moving forward from there, when I transitioned into the full-time working environment, all these skills were completely transferable because during my IWSP, I was working on a MOE project. Right after that, I was working on a MinDev project, right? So many of these technical components were transferable, and it didn't take much for me to, get my hands on these kind of different components, get up to date with the current practices, and yeah, it was quite fast. I was able to start contributing to the team. So that was how it benefited me a lot.
Oh, sounds impressive. And I'm sure, the quality of your work speaks for themselves. So in terms of, employers gauging from themselves, our graduates' ability and their attitude towards learning. Yeah. Could you want to add something?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to add one point. When Felix mentioned the IWSP, the reason why we have trimester basis is also to include the IWSP or the attachment as part of your curriculum. And typically it is strategically placed in your last year such that you are able to contribute whatever knowledge that you have acquired in your previous few years as a student, and also to allow you to have the opportunity to accept an employment offer that would materialize in the next few months when you finish 1 or 2 of your final semesters. So I just wanted to add that that's the reason why we have the trimester basis, is to include this in your curriculum, so that everybody would graduate with some sort of working experience, which is not predominantly typical in other universities, I believe, where you are expected to find your own internships, which means you have to go through the job application process and ramping up your resume all at your own time, as compared to having it fitted into your curriculum. And it's basically a guarantee that you will graduate with something on your resume. And I think that's important. You have an edge when it comes to employment. And I also wanted to add that one good thing about the IWSP is that for my course especially, what was expected is that whatever project you take had to benefit the company. So it's not about, you can have all the theory that you learn in class, but at the end of the day, it's how you bring value to the company, right? So we weren't given a fixed topic to do. We were expected to come up with our own topic that would benefit the company and improve one of their process or reduce cost or something like that, similar to what Felix has done. And that was one of my FYPs in that sense. And I think it's a very adult way of thinking of how can I bring value to this company, which as a student, okay, I came from JC, so I never had internships in poly. As a student, I never had that sort of mindset. And I think that was new and valuable to me. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for that. So we've heard a lot about the IWSP and, you also get paid, during your IWSP, I know that. There is another type of, work attachments in SIT's context, and that would be applicable to our allied health programs. And for that, we have Lala, who is, our radiation therapy student. And so in the allied health courses, I believe you do not have something called IWSP, but you have something else. Would you like to share more?
Okay, so for allied health students, we have clinical placements. So unlike IWSP, which is typically situated at the end of the 4 years for the other students, we are exposed to the clinical setting from year 1, I believe, with exception of the PT students who are only exposed at during their final 2 years. So the rationale for that will be for us to seamlessly integrate into the healthcare system, to have patient exposure from year 1 and to learn how to interact with them, because the nature of our job is very much based on human interaction. So these are soft skills that you have to pick up from young. Like it's a soft skill that it takes a while to develop. So yeah, that's different from the other courses in that sense. And I find it really, really helpful for me because learning about the theoretical knowledge in school is very, very different from applying them in real life. So for my first clinical placement, I was initially pretty intimidated by the clinical setting because I felt like I was thrown in there having to interact with the patients and the unfamiliar medical equipment. But throughout the clinical placements, I got more and more comfortable with the setting. And I feel that it is actually a pretty good structure for us to have clinical placements spaced out throughout the 4 years, because after each placement, we'll have time to reflect on what we went through, be it a 2-week or 4-week or 8-week block. Yeah, and it gives us a little break to reflect before we can think of how we can better improve on it during the next placement. So yes, I thought it's very good.
Yeah, and I know that you have to finish like 1,000 over hours of clinical placement. Is that right? Across the 4 years?
Yeah, that's true, but it's pretty manageable. And the fact that it's spaced out, I think the pacing is really good because, yeah, like I said earlier, you get to reflect and yeah, you get a little break in between during the study weeks where you get in more theoretical knowledge before being able to apply them again. Yeah.
Oh, we have a related question to that. Like, can we understand why clinical placements are unpaid? So would the context be slightly different? It's not really so much of you working in a hospital, but really is it more like you're learning? It's a learning opportunity. You're somewhat likened to attending classes in a healthcare setting. Would you describe it that way?
Yes, I think I could very much agree with that statement, because the clinical educators, we do have clinical educators who set time aside to explain the procedures to us as well as the workflow before we get to implement this new knowledge by having hands-on experience. So in a way, while we are having hands-on experience, we are doing the work for them. But I don't think we should see it that way, because being in healthcare, we have to be very, very closely supervised by the clinical educators. So I wouldn't say that we are contributing much to the healthcare facilities but they are teaching us more. So yeah.
Thank you, Lala. Okay, I'm being mindful of the time, but I do see quite a few questions, maybe pertaining to overseas immersion program. I mean, the context of the person asking is from a different university from yours, but maybe we can invite Ryan to share a bit more about your overseas immersion program experience. What would that what is the living situation like, and also can talk about your financing of that overseas immersion program.
Okay. From a big picture point of view, the Overseas Exchange Program, or known as the OEP or the Overseas Immersion Program, OIP, is one of my most unique highlights in my entire student life in SIT. That's because that not only we are joint conferred, and okay, in SIT systems, right, we have two different types of degree, a local-based conferred degree and a joint conferred degree. So joint conferred degrees usually you have attained from our overseas partners such as DigiPen, University of Glasgow, Newcastle. So depending on the course, depending on the overseas partners, we have different duration of the program, and how long it stays, depending on how much you want to go also, or how far do you want to go. The baseline for most programs is 3 weeks to up to 4 months. So anytime more than that, in between your holidays, you want to throw in your own personal trip to travel around the world, that's the highlight of the trip as well. So apart from getting exposure to learning about the culture of the different students' life there, you also get to explore the world. So that's one of the key highlights of the entire trip. The second highlight of it would be the culture. Because in Singapore, right, we talk about fast-paced learning and we don't stop. But as compared to the overseas country, it's pretty much laid back. It's very relaxing to see how they study there also. So they really adhere to a work-life balance or study-life balance, as they say. Yeah, so it's like more to a 9 to 5, 8 to 4 situation. So they clock off at 4 o'clock at 5. Which is very different from Singapore. Because in Singapore, right, you see us after 6, oh, what are we doing? We are studying, we're doing this, we're doing that, we have CCAs. But in there, right, or overseas, in Europe or London, or UK in general, it's super relaxing. It's like they have so many activities planned for their own, their family, their life. Yeah, so that's what they advocate for as compared to Asian culture. So coming back to OEP or OIP, it's one of a program that SIT pushes students to go for. So in that case, SIT also joined with local partners to provide funding, such as bursaries, using the post-secondary school EduSave account. Yeah, apart from that, we also use scholarships to fund for our program. So the funding of the program depends on how much you want to go and how far you want to go. And that was the best part of my entire 3 years in SIT.
Okay, I do hear you repeating how relaxing it is there, but I really think it's really about opening your horizon to cultural learning, a different cultural experience. But I'm sure you also benefited a lot from learning on the trip itself, which is also tied to one of the questions here about joint degrees. Are there advantages to enrolling in a joint degree, so such as Glasgow for yours? So you have the benefits of 2 universities in your learning experience. You have professors from both sides teaching you, and then you have the overseas immersion program. Would you like to elaborate any more about this joint degree, how it has benefited you?
Something very unique about joint conferred degrees is that my professors from the University of Glasgow, they'll fly in from Glasgow to Singapore, and they will spend like about 3 weeks to a month, roughly the same time as our exchange program, to Singapore to understand what is the industry needs. So comparable, we have different case studies from locally and overseas internationally. So that's how they cater to a different curriculum style. Like what Felix had mentioned earlier before, it's more of an industry practice learning. So we don't have a 10-year series. This is something that I would say our nearby friends, they would have. The 10-year series, they refer to seniors, they give on their notes to juniors, they pass it on. But in SIT, we don't advocate for that. In SIT, we actually advocate for industry, actual real-time studies. So we cater undergraduates to the needs of the industry, and that learning pace, right, or what we learn from the books, right, is very unique and custom to the industry. It's very different from what you learn from textbook. Not like it's apply the formula, this is the answer, and this is what you get. So there's an input, there's an output. But in between, the equation itself, there's a lot of factors like environment, is there a need for it? Are we helping people? And what's it sustainable about this? So that's where SIT comes about. Yeah.
Thank you. So we've answered those questions on the joint degree. To clarify, a joint degree is not a double degree. So SIT does not confer double degrees. Our take on learning beyond the core content of your degree domain would be interdisciplinary modules. And so, for our students who are on this university program structure that has other sorts of transferable skills weaved into the content. It will cover things like critical thinking, digital skills. We have a social innovation project, and of course, the buzzword these days, sustainability education. So that is how we are broadening, what our students are learning to be able to help them pivot to adjacent sectors, and that is so needed in a evolving, industry context. Isn't that right? Okay, now I know that another hot topic here that I'm seeing is the big word Pongo. Okay, so there are many questions about Pongo, and of course, just to answer the straightforward question, when is SIT moving to our future campus at Pongo? Answer is late 2024. So our next academic year, for next year, our students will be joining us in the new campus in Pongo. All right, and I know that amongst us here, we have our graduates, we have those who are in their third year, fourth year. So yeah, maybe you won't be there to continue your undergraduate studies. However, the thought of having a brand new campus, a waterfront campus, a sustainable campus, with lots of green spaces, and right in the heart of the Pongo Digital District, where we're just next to industry with all the big players. What sort of potential opportunities do you think that would bring to in terms of student life, in terms of the learning opportunities? How would you, if you had that chance, Kriti, to study in that brand new campus, how would you imagine student life to be like? And that would be for your juniors.
So when I played football, or when we played team sports or any CCA, for example, obviously it's nice to have everyone there for every training or every event, which was not typically possible when I was a student, when everybody was dispersed among all the poly campuses, simply because we also had different exam schedules, of course, for different courses. And nearing certain times of the month, people would be like, okay, I'm unable to make a 1-hour journey to your Dover campus to train with you guys and then take another hour journey home. And that's fair. So of course, I was already in the Dover campus, so just I stay back and then I go for my CCA. So of course, having a centralized campus would be very useful for our teams, and new facilities. So that is something I look forward to. I know our alumni team works very hard to still involve us in so many activities. I think recently we had some calligraphy painting workshop. So of course, I still look forward to coming back and using the facilities as well. I think it will be a very vibrant student life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What about you, Dina? You have any thoughts about Pongo and how you might be visiting us for certain activities?
I definitely look forward to visiting because currently I'm in Citizen Ambassadors. It is our very own student ambassadors, and we are a very vibrant community with students from all clusters and all causes. So the downside, like Kriti has mentioned, is the fact that for myself, I am staying and I'm also studying in the North Campus in RP. So if I were to come for camps, I will have to make the journey down over to SIT Dover. However, with that being said, as tiring as it can get, the camps really are vibrant because you get to meet people from different clusters. And through the camps and meeting fellow ambassadors and fellow scholars, it has been a really wonderful journey of expanding my network of fellow peers and friends, and really getting to know people beyond the scope of friends within the same campus. So I personally look forward to actually not only being around my future alumni peers, but to actually see our incoming juniors be surrounded and getting to actually meet their friends from orientation and having a meal together. Because during COVID, where our orientation was online and I was a facilitator, right? It was really difficult to coordinate with everyone to meet for prata or something like that. But with the new campus, we actually can get to meet for lunch or maybe after school, just hanging around in school. So I'm really glad and excited for that. Yeah.
Okay, great. I think you've touched on a very important topic, student life, right? It's more than just studying in the classrooms or even IWSP. There's a lot more to student life. So yeah, I think I would like to invite Ryan to share, because I know, Ryan, you were quite involved in the student orientation, or we call it day zero. So what is that onboarding experience like for a new student?
In fact, actually, day zero is actually part of the first year experience. That's when student life actually has student leaders to engage new student bodies. And that's when we have, through orientation and facilitation, we introduce what is SIT culture, how are student lives here, what kind of activities can you expect? Is your class is only about studying? Is your whole university life about just going through the books, going through the motion? Do we go through more than that? Yeah. Apart from that, we are also learning about the cultures and what can we set as a university culture, like as a group, as an organization, what do we offer to the people outside of SIT? Like we are not only just SIT students, and orientation does help you through that because it broadens your horizons, increase your connections, like there's all types of people in the world. Yeah, and that's the purpose of orientation.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we've answered quite a lot of questions about Pongo, about student life, about orientation, just the smaller questions about accommodation. So at the Pongo campus, we do not provide hostels. However, we have access via MRT, and I'm sure Pongo, being a very vibrant campus town, it'll be quite highly accessible through all sorts of public transport means as well. So cycling, taking MRT and all of that. And I think Singapore is not that big after all, so that's fine. So yeah, Pongo. Right, I think we are kind of towards the tail end of our session, but if you would be happy to stay for a few more minutes, we can take some of your questions also on financial aid. So we do have a few questions about financial aid. You want to hear more about financial aid? So I guess, for our students here, you would have, throughout the time of your studies, you would have received a lot of information about the sorts of financial aid schemes available. We encourage students who are, in need of financial help to go for the tuition fee loan offered by the banks. So we have bank loans. It covers up to 90% of your school fees, and it's interest-free during the time of your studies. The interest only kicks in after you graduate. So that really helps to create a safety net for you in terms of your school fees. But beyond that, we have government bursaries that students can apply for, and also a whole suite of donor supported bursaries that they will be able to assess students who need financial help. Beyond that, we have scholarships. So I know amongst us, we have some scholars as well who have been assessed both on academic standing as well as their leadership qualities. So SIT scholarships are provided to those who excel in both the academic grounds as well as leadership, community service, and all of that. And for that, they will have to pay back in kind, by being very involved in the life of the university, representing us, in such forums. So truly, we want to groom and develop our scholars to be very involved and not just receiving the money. And, it's more than that. It's about really personal development. So I think financial help is certainly available. Scholarships are available as well. And okay, I think we have more technical questions about computers, the use of computers, laptops. So maybe like what sort of specs, what sort of computer loans available, laptop sales, the technical questions. Would anybody like to share, like based on your recollection of how you got your laptop? Ryan?
Okay, I'll take that first. Okay, first off, if you don't have the generic laptop systems or requirement, you can actually loan it from school. SIT actually offers students to help them out in terms of softwares and logistics. So you can approach SIT's hotline and ask them for a spare of computers, and usually Student Life or any divisions will be more than willing to assist you to provide you with the necessary logistics. And in terms of specs, what you need actually varies from cost to cost. Yeah, for example, let's say we're talking about business, can go for the extreme ends. You're talking about MacBooks, yeah. But for engineering, you're talking about Windows systems because you need to run programs. And this is what will assist us for our thesis generation. Yeah.
I think I can also add that it will definitely be different for our ICT and engineering students, but for business students, a lot of my classmates actually just bring the iPad to school. So they'll just do their notes straight from there. It's light, it's compatible with a lot of they want to be light and accessible, right? Personally, I think for business students, I can say that pretty much any laptop goes as long as you can do your basic Microsoft Office suite, etc. Yeah.
So, beyond computers and laptops, right? For those ICT friends who are listening to this, we need to work on different types of platforms, right? So the school have the capability to loan you guys like, Oculus Rift, Android phone for mobile programming, iPhones as well. So that shouldn't be an issue. It will be provided.
Okay, thank you. Well, we're really coming to the tail end, and we have not been able to answer all the questions that are still coming in, but not to worry on that. So if you have more questions after this session, please reach out to the Admissions and Financial Aid Office. Okay, so our email contact is available, our hotline is available to you. Please reach out to us so that we can assist you with more of your specific questions. But before we let you go, I think we need to just remind you that the closing date for the acceptance is really just round the corner, 24th of May. So do not wait until 2359 hours to click on the button. We will advise you to take action now. Click on the button today. Okay, if you have heard from us, you've heard from our citizens, and you feel that SIT is the place where you can thrive, where you can grow, where we're able to journey with you. And of course, we hope to see more of you, like being able to join us, like Felix and Kriti, as well as the rest, coming back. Even after they graduate, they're still they still care about the university. They still want to come back and to be involved. So yeah, I think we really welcome you to join us in this SIT family. All right. Okay, so thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Please stay in touch with us. We wish you the very best. And remember, 24th of May is the acceptance deadline. So click on the acceptance button today. Thank you very much. Goodbye.